Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to tell you that Michelob Ultra, the official beer partner of the NBA, is bringing NBA fans closer than ever this season with chances to win great prizes, including courtside tickets. Enter now at michelobultra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Courtside 25 to 26. No purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 plus. Begins on October 1st, 2025 and ends on June 30th, 2026. Multiple entry periods. See official rules at michelobultra.com/courtside for free entry deadlines, prizes, and details.
Hace 9 años que el Snack Wrap se fue. Así sin explicación, sin despedida. Y tú no lo superaste. Hiciste posts, tweets, hasta abriste grupos en las redes sociales. Y te enfocaste en lograr tu meta, que regresara. Y hoy, después de años de pedirlo, volvió el Snack Wrap. Ordénalo en Ranch o Spicy. Encuentra tu Snack Wrap en tu McDonald's favorito. Para pa pa pa.
This episode is brought to you by Nature's Bounty. Nature's Bounty believes your body is brilliant, naturally designed to thrive, inside and out. For those always looking for new ways to support your health from head to heels, Nature's Bounty has a range of over 400 vitamins and supplements born from 50 years of trust and care. Nature's Bounty. It's in your nature. Visit naturesbounty.com to learn more.
Hello everyone, it's Gav, and before we begin, I want to let you know that this episode of Haway The Podcast is sponsored by LiveScoreBet, a proud principal partner of Sunderland FC. And if you're looking to get started, LiveScoreBet have got a cracking welcome offer for new customers. All you have to do is bet £10 on sports and you get £30 in free bets. It's as simple as that. So, if you're ready to join the action, make sure you're doing it with LiveScoreBet, the home of total betting. This offer is available to new members only, and you need to put £10 or more on a bet on sports within 14 days of opening your account. Free bets are valid for 7 days, £20 to use on Sportsbook, £10 on Bet Builder. T's and C's and deposit exclusions apply. Bet responsibly, over 18s only. Hello everyone and welcome to Haway The Podcast, sponsored by LiveScoreBet. It's Gav and you join us for this week's Q&A edition of Haway The Podcast. As per usual, we've put the call out on social media. Thank you very much to everyone who was sent in a question. We had a few by email as well this week, so we have included them. Lots of topics to go over when it comes to Sunday as we head into Christmas. And we're all probably feeling a little bit festive and a little bit cheery after seeing the league table this week as Sunderland sit 6th in the Premier League. Going into Christmas. And I'm joined, first and foremost, by Ant Watson. Hello, mate.
Hello, mate. Yes, ho, ho, ho. Good Christmas week. Feels like, I love the build-up towards Christmas. Really like the build-up. And then you have the day, and then you have Boxing Day. Boxing Day is meant to be good because there's football on, but obviously this year it's completely different. And then you have that lull where you haven't got a clue what day it is. You don't know what you're doing. You're just drinking. Love it. Love it. Love this time of year.
I just wish they'd give us a game on Boxing Day, but hey ho, we'll probably chat about that in a bit. Also with us is Jonny Hurley. Hello, mate.
Hello, lads. Yep, feeling very festive. Excited to eat and drink me body weight and possibly then some over the next couple of weeks. But I tell you what, on the subject of the festive fixtures, though, it's crap not having a Boxing Day game. But isn't it nice that Leeds home game just sort of perfectly breaks up that week of the void between Christmas and New Year? I think it's quite nice. I mean, I'd rather have it on Boxing Day, but a couple of days after Christmas, you'll just be like, oh, get in, got the match tomorrow. So I'm quite excited for that.
Yeah, and obviously, whenever Sunderland play Leeds, that's a bit of an occasion for you, isn't it?
Yeah, not exactly split loyalties, but it'll determine how chipper I am when I go into five-a-side for the next go after that, because I'll have 10 to 12 Leeds fans either ready to ignore us completely or rip the absolute piss out of us for an hour. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's always fun when we play Leeds. But yes, anyways, we've got questions to go through. I did send you both over this week's list, and there are a lot. So we're going to try and chew through them. And apologies if we don't get through them all, but a lot of them cover kind of the same topics anyways. So let's see how we do. I'm going to start off with this one because this one piqued my interest because I hadn't really thought about this at all until I saw this question. I was like, actually, you might have a point. We've had a question by email from Adrian Metcalf, and he says, Johnny, do Enzo Lafay and Nordi Mukiele deserve international call-ups? Now, I hadn't thought about this. Enzo's never played for France. Nordi has in the past. He's got caps for France, of course. But they are playing for a team inside the top 6 of the Premier League. I mean, I know it's a way away now, isn't it? The next international break's in March, and then the World Cup's kind of following that. But if they were English, you would probably be calling for them to play for England, wouldn't you? Kind of the way people are talking about Ballard and saying, oh, if he hadn't already declared for Northern Ireland, he would be in consideration. So, I mean, it's a point, isn't it?
So is this the opposite of the phenomenon where, if he was called, Ronaldinho or whatever, he'd be worth 150 million. This is if he was called Ethan the Fee, he'd be getting England shouts. It's a good question, actually. I certainly haven't thought about Enzo with respect to getting a call up. It just, I don't know, something about getting into France's midfield just still feels a bit too exotic for a Sunderland player. Do you know what I mean? It just feels way too far away from where we've been. I think out of the two of them, I'd be less surprised to see Nordi get another call up, because, like you say, he's been in the picture before, and I do think he's been brilliant this season, hasn't he? I mean, many
every
of them
squad
have.
could do the Nordi, couldn't it?
Well, that's it as well. The versatility's a big thing, isn't it? Especially with it being a World Cup year, you've obviously got to put together a squad of, however many they take now, 25, 26 or whatever it is. You want at least a few in there who can cover a few positions, and obviously we've seen this season that Nordi's got that in his locker. It'd be an interesting one. It'd be a bit of a feather in the club's cap, I think, if we did manage to, sort of sneak somebody into one of the really big countries' World Cup squads. It'd be a nice little thing for us to just be able to sort of show off next summer, wouldn't it, with the recruitment pointing to, any other under-21 starlets across Europe and just say, well, if you come play for Sunderland, you never know, you might see yourself at a World Cup one day, and then who knows where the limit is after that. So it'd be good to see. On the flip side, though, I also would quite like us to stay under the radar a bit more. So if we start getting people called up for France, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's just nice to be in the conversation, isn't it? Even see our Sunderland have got players who could potentially play for France at the World Cup. That's it's such a feather in our cap to even be able to say that, and that these players have come and signed for Sunderland and have improved to such a rate that they would be even in the conversation and the thinking.
Oh, I'm 100%. And you know what? Any excuse to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to watch Enzo Lafay, I'll take it. You know what I mean? But you know what? It is a good point, because, you look at the age, he's only 25. So, he's still, probably got the best years of his career to come. He's already played for the under-21, so they obviously are aware of him. And he went to the Olympics, didn't he, in 2021, I think? He definitely played for an Olympic side. So they obviously are aware of him there. I know this. Obviously, the French have got a fantastic midfield. They've got some good players. But they don't have anyone who grafts as much as Enzo, though. And in America,
maybe N'Golo Kante, but he's getting on.
Yeah, he's getting on a bit now, though, isn't he? But in a World Cup like that, where it's hot and it's going to be humid, it's going to be really, really, difficult. A lad who can graft like that probably gets you over the line in a couple of games. So I think it's a fair point. And Nordi, I think Nordi should be playing for France anyway. I think Nordi's a fantastic player. I think we were very, very fortunate. I say fortunate. I think we just scouted brilliantly to get him. I think it's a fantastic signing.
I think there's a wider point around the upcoming World Cup, and that being a massive carrot to dangle in front of players who could potentially go. What other, you're playing for a fantastic club in Sunderland anyways. Everything's going in the right direction. So many reasons to be motivated. But an extra factor on top of that is, if you keep playing well, you could well go to the World Cup. So, and there's a few players in that boat, isn't there? You go right through the squad. There's even players who've never been called up. Like Wilson Isidore. If he wants to play in the World Cup, he can, because Haiti will take him tomorrow. So there's stuff like that. We go right through the squad. But great opening question, that, Adrian. Thank you very much.
And do you know what, Gav, as well? What it does, you said dangles the carrot. You look at January. You look at players who are in their national sides who maybe aren't getting that much of a game where they're at the club. We can give them that.
Yeah.
There you go. You know what I mean? So it's as you said, for us to be, fifth in the table at Christmas, coming into January where we are looking to bring some players in, and now we're getting into signings later on, which is my favourite topic. But yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. The fact we're even thinking about it's fantastic.
A certain Matteo Guendouzi comes to mind, doesn't he? Okay, next up, we've got this one from AP Mackham on Twitter, who says, how does Dan Ballard compare to the great Charlie Hurley? Now, none of us on this call were old enough to have seen Charlie Hurley play for Sunderland, but I have heard Kelvin talk about him, and I have heard other fans who were fans of Charlie Hurley who have made that comparison. Don't know if I can answer that one, but still, anyone got any thoughts on that? How does he compare to the great Charlie Hurley? I guess Charlie Hurley, majority of his football for Sunderland was in the second tier, wasn't it? But
if I can message my dad now, right, and then get back to you later on in the podcast, is that all right? Because I think
we'll circle back round, and
yeah, I'll quickly message him now, because he was the Charlie Hurley era, the Charlie Hurley era. So obviously, because like I say, none of us have watched it. As we're I think I'm the eldest here. I'm 40 in May. And used to young whippersnappers in your 30s. So, yes, we'll get back to them on that one.
We'll come back round to that one. Anybody who wants to get in touch, just email us or comment on social media or whatever and let us know. How does Dan Ballard compare to Charlie Hurley? Next one up from Jimmy Unseen5292 on Twitter. Johnny, he says, going back to the Newcastle match, is this the start of the pettiness from both sides going forward forever now? From not reading the team out and not to naming the opposition on the scoreboard visitors. I like to think so. If when they're in our backyard, let's get into them a bit in any way we can.
Exactly. Bring it on, I say. Like, I want to see more of that as much as possible. In the derby's mind, let's not say it every week, but I'm like, I hadn't thought about this, but then obviously reading the question out, I was thinking, well, did we not do any of this before? Like, I was trying to think back to the last time we were in the Premier League, thinking about the run of games, and we didn't do stuff like this, really, did we? We did sort of just we just treated it like another game in terms of the formalities and the window dressing and stuff. But yeah, why not? Let's get it up them. Let's make it so they don't like coming here. Let's make it so they hate coming to the Stadium of Light and they feel like they're gonna get battered every time. More of that, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, what do you reckon, Ant? Are you a fan of all that pettiness?
I love a bit of shithousery. All here for a bit of shithousery. It can only get better as well, though, can't it? You know what I mean? But I saw the lad from This Is We Side yesterday, last game, just said, look, that T4 was unreal. Absolutely unreal, wasn't it? It just got everyone going, didn't it? And then, but yeah, let's just do it. Let's just, up the ante every year. Because it was fantastic, wasn't it? The visitors thing was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. And you know what the Mags are like, because they think they invented everything. They're going to try and one-up us, aren't they, by the time so they'll do probably the same to us, but it won't have the same effect. Because they'll have
invented scoreboards by the end of the season, don't worry. And they'll have invented T4s and pre-match videos, and they've already invented taking team photos. So the rest of the world's their oyster.
Well, that is the case indeed. Next question from Molly Atkinson on Twitter. Johnny, this is an interesting one because I have seen a lot of people who are superstitious, basically, talking about this black third kit we've got. Right, as soon as it came out earlier in the week that we were playing in black, there were people going, "Oh, we're never winning that black kit." So Molly has said the black shirt myth. It's dark by 4 p.m. The black kit can blend into the crowd. Do you think it's actually harder for them to see each other, especially with peripheral vision? My question is, rather than being a myth, could it logically be ever so slightly impacting on performance, maybe resulting in more misplaced passes, as it's harder to judge where someone is in relation to you? Black kits aren't that common for a reason, I think. Have you thought that deeply about the black kits thing?
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, it is very funny that even when we're, 6th at Christmas and beat the Mags and having one of the best years ever, we still need something to cling on to have a bit of negativity sometimes. Yeah. And it's the black kit now. It's the kit's cursed. So intensely funny that's the way it's manifested this season. But it's a good question because it's one of them things, isn't it? Like, on the face of it, you might just look at it and go, "Oh, how man, what the colour of the kit's making them misplace the passes and that, right? Whatever." But I suppose it is right that, like, right at the very top of the sport, Premier League, elite level, it only takes like 0.5% of something to make a difference, to make a big difference on the pitch in the end. You know what I mean? Like those tiny margins can go, they can be magnified when you're at the very top. So yes, I suppose it is possible, because even it's ridiculous to compare Premier League football to five-a-side, right?
You're doing that thing again where you talk about the Russell Foster League.
No, it's not the Russell Foster League this time, but I am still comparing elite footballers to me playing football. So I accept that's ridiculous, but it is right, in it. Like when it's dark and people are in like, navy blue or dark black kits and that, you don't spot them as easily against like, the backdrop of the sides of the cage or whatever. And if it's, you're again, like I say, you take that level up and up and up right to the top. Yeah, okay, I'm not saying that like Enzo Lafay can't see Brian Brobby or whatever to make the pass to him, but that little tiny, like you're on the run, you're trying to break away and counter attack. You've got one chance to slide the perfect through ball in. I can totally see why at that point, just even the slightest little bit of miscalibration between where you're looking for the player, you just don't, you don't quite get the outline perfect in your peripheral vision. You struggle to depth perception and weight a pass and everything. Yeah, I could see that happening. Absolutely. So look, whether we'll ever be able to say definitively one way or the other whether that's made a difference, it might not be the kind of thing that the club are going to investigate too deeply. But I could see it making a slight difference, yeah. I'd just like us to score a goal in that kit soon so we can get that particular monkey off our backs and get on with the season.
Yeah, I think if there was anything really in that, everyone would wear fluorescent kits, wouldn't they? I'm not
maybe we
should
turn up in bibs next time, maybe instead.
You'd have Enzo Lafay passing the stewards and stuff. I don't know about that one. Like, I'm not completely writing it off, Molly, but maybe. We'll move on slightly and to something which I know you're dying to talk about, which is a debate around lack of goals. So, we've had more questions on this than we have had for anything else today. We have 6 in total, all around the topic of Sunderland's lack of goals. A point made by Walex Walbon, who was Curious Columbo on Twitter, who has pointed out that only Forest and Wolves have scored fewer goals than us. We scored 19 this season, 15 if you exclude own goals and penalties. I don't want to exclude own goals, though, because obviously I have very fond memories of that particular goal against Newcastle. But we've also had questions from Joe Lewins, Joe Braun, Gary Sinclair, Ryan Evans, and John Harrison, all on this topic about goals. Now, we've had one get back to us, Joe Lewins, who isn't particularly worried about it. But, a few of the others there are a little bit concerned about the fact that we're not hitting the back of the net as often as we would probably like. But you're not particularly concerned, are you?
I'm with Joe Lewins on this one. Like, I'm not bothered at all. Look, like, you find ways to win, and that's what this team's doing. I totally get, Brighton on Saturday was probably the one game where you looked at, we were dominant, weren't we, for a long period of play. We probably, had we got a goal, I think, we would have won the game because defensively we were sound. I get that. But I cannot get worried about how many goals we've scored or what this, that, the other, when we're sat 5th in the table nearly halfway through the season.
6, but when it's
6, sorry, I just can't get worried about it, Gav. I really can't. Look, when we've needed to score goals, we have. You look at the Bournemouth game when we're 2-0 down, we've scored 3. The team's capable of doing it. So at the minute, I'm more than happy because it's still, we're still 4 or 5 months into a season where we're still, we've got the basics right, as in become hard to beat. That's what we are. We don't concede many goals. We've got a top-class goalkeeper and a brilliant defence. The rest will see itself right. It will see itself right. And you've got to remember, under Reggie, we haven't, I think as if it's been made now, or Reggie, under Register Brit, we haven't, even last year, we weren't that team, were we? Where we were blowing teams away. It was like Chef went on the first game of the season. But even then, after then, it was like 1 or 2 nils or everything like that. We got through a playoff final, beating the team 2-1. Playoff semi-final, beat the team 2-1 at their place. So we're hard to beat, and that's what we need to be. It'll sort itself out. Give it next year give it next season when we've got ourselves established and we're, one of them top sides, which I think we will be eventually, and then we'll sign them players. You know what I mean? It'll see itself right. I really don't worry about it, and that's a problem. I think that's a problem. And I'm gonna get into a proper tirade about the day and age of this game when we're talking XG and expected shots and this, that, and the other. Listen, I don't care, and I'm sorry, you're not gonna get that into my brain about XG, about expected goals, expected shots, expected how many times you expect to be in the box. All this palaver. The only stat that matters in this game is the end result, and there's no ifs, no buts about it.
I've just got visions now of someone strapping you down, Clockwork Orange style, and just like eyes open, like feeding you stats for a few hours. Like, no, not in my head.
Nah, it won't happen. Honestly, I can't get to it. Like, we've got a lad in our group chat, in one of my friends' group chats, who like he is proper, like he is a data-driven lad, and he's a Sunderland fan, and he's like, but if Enzo the Field ran an extra 12 yards, he would have ran the most out of anyone this week. Like, who gives a flying fuck? Like, what was the score, Gary? What was the score? We won 1-0, right? That's all I want to know. So.
Well, it is a choice, though, Johnny, isn't it? That, we obviously clearly focus more on being a solid defensive unit as opposed to being expansive, because we've got the players who can play a more expansive style. But there is an offset. You can't be expansive and also really solid at the back. I think if you look at even the teams at the top of the league, Arsenal have become that 1-0 to the Arsenal again. They're literally, they won 1-0 at the weekend. Arsenal are doing what we're doing to a degree, they've got a higher grade of player than we've got right now. You look at the rest of the table and see, like, Liverpool are in 5th at the minute. Liverpool have conceded 8 more goals than we have. Man United have conceded 28. We've only conceded 17. So it's a choice, isn't it? Ultimately, if we wanted to score more goals and be more free flowing, we would, but that would be offset by conceding more, and we might not be 6th in the Premier League.
Exactly, and you could see even in the summer, you could see with the order in which we made some of the signings, you could see that the priority was on defence. I don't think it's a coincidence that Roofs and Siddiqui and Diarra and Ronaldo and Alderete and, all these lads are in up front or, near enough the start of the window, or certainly first half of the window. And then you've got Brian Brobby and Bertrand Traore on deadline day. Now, okay, I know that Brobby was slightly complicated with the Q situation, fair enough, but I think you can see the general point I'm making, you know what I mean? Like, the club are focused on that solidity and that spine of the team first, and then you add in the quality in attacking areas around that. And that's, like you say, that's clearly a choice. You both mentioned the fact that Ant in particular was talking about the way we played last season. Bang on. That's the way that Regis Labrissa's teams play. Defensively solid first, and then look to see what you can build going forward after that, which I think is the right way to go about it. It was the right decision to make as a promoted team this season as well. And your comparison with Arsenal, Gav, I think is a good one, because the reason Arsenal are top of the league is because they're defensively solid first, and then they're now good enough that however they need to break an opponent down or however they need to win a game, they can do it. So if they need to go open play, they've got Ødegaard, they've got Eze, they've got Saka, they've got players who can hurt you. If they need to go set pieces, they've got Gabriel, they've got Saliba, they've got Declan Rice. If they need, do you know what I mean? Like, if they need to play on the break, they've got pace. Yeah. If they need to play through the lines, they can do that. And that's where that's essentially what we've got to try and aspire to get as close to as we can. Mm-hmm. And I think you see elements of that this season where the principles of defensive solidity are there, regardless of who we're playing. But then on top of that, we can go 4, we can go 5, we can go, primarily wing play. We can play for set pieces. What we don't have is then the quality on top of that to be also able to go, all right, you want to sit in a low block? Well, we can just play through you because we've got, ex-Real Madrid attacking midfield players or whoever. That's, maybe one day, but not just yet. But you're right. It's the way we have to go about things, and it's far easier to turn a defensively solid team into an outfit who can score goals while keeping the defensive shape. It's easier to do that than it is to turn a team that scores for fun into a solid team without losing a lot of that attacking ability. So, yeah, it's definitely the right way to do it.
Yeah, I actually falsely attributed that opinion to Joe Lewins. It was Joe Braun. So, sorry, get me Joe's mixed up. Joe Braun, he said, am I alone in not worrying about scoring goals? We were built to be organised and hard to score against. 6 clean sheets so far means we will continue to pick up points and keep us in the league for next year. So it was, a good point.
Just on the clean sheets as well, by the way. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of us, but at least 2 of them have come away from home. Palace and Brighton. There might be another one in there somewhere, but that's a very good sign as well, because it would be so easy to go, we've got 6 clean sheets. Yeah, 5 of them at home and 1 of them we managed to dodgily nick away, but we're solid wherever we go.
Notts Forest as well, Johnny. When we beat them 1-0.
Yes, of course, yeah. Forest. So there you go. You're going 3-3 in a split of clean sheets. I think that's a really good sign.
Yeah, and naturally you're more defensive away from home, aren't you?
Yeah. Gav, do you think we would have been having the same conversation, or and I totally get why people are a little bit worried about, because I think, it is something where, say, January, February, if it's still happening and we're losing games, and that's fair enough, you know what I mean? But do you think it would have been the same question had we been winning games 4-3 and it'd been really, really entertaining? I just think we're conceding too many goals. Probably. So, and I think it's probably right that we've got it right. As what Johnny said, organised defence, organised a good midfield, general that we've got in Granit Xhaka. The rest will give it 6 to 12 months. It'll be fine. Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, there was a good point made there by John Harrison. Well, he kind of made a point in asking a question. He said, "Is the lack of goals a tactical issue or a personnel issue? It's not like the forward players are missing loads of chances. So would a new striker score more than our current options?" That's a point I've been considering the last couple of days, because I don't watch Isidore and Brobby and think, well, they've missed shitloads of chances. I know Isidore had that really good chance against Liverpool, didn't he? And the one against Man City. But there were chances that came out and out, really. One of them was a long ball right at the death. A great pass by Robin Roofs, and was unbelievable defending from Chiesa. The other one was just, he improvised really well to get in a shooting position. Donnarumma closed him down brilliantly. Then he had that shot against the Mags, which was literally a long ball. The way he got the shot away, you're looking at it, you're going, they're feeding off scraps to a degree. And actually, I think that there is a conversation to be had about lack of goals. I'm not concerned about it, but yes, we can improve. And you made this point when we were chatting off air, Johnny, something that Andrew said last week when he was talking about, if you were being greedy, would you want to be able to score? Yeah, I would. I would like to see score a bit more. I don't think it's completely down to style of football. It's largely to do with style of football. We do play a pragmatic style where we're quite defensive. So, if we do go out and sign another £20 million striker like we did in the summer to get Brobby, is it going to make that much of a difference? No, because we're not creating a lot of chances. What we probably do need is more from the wide players in terms of when they get into shooting positions, they need to be shooting. I'm looking forward to seeing a bit more of Romain Mundle, because I think he, out of all of the options we've got, the lads both here at the minute and the ones at the AFCON, he is the most likely goal scorer, him or Traore, really.
Yeah.
But Mundle, when he cuts in on his right foot, he just wants to shoot. And I don't mind that. I think we need a bit more of that in the team. But I'm not massively concerned. I would look at, I probably would have liked to have seen a bit more from Xhaka in that regard, if I'm being picky with him, because he's developed a bit of a reputation through his career of being a sort of somebody who can get you a goal from 25 yards and put it in the top corner. I'd probably count on one hand the amount of shots he's had from range. So I think there's ways to improve. I just don't think it's going to be magically fixed by going into the transfer market and signing a bunch of players. I think, we could do with 1 or 2, but we are being picky here. We are 6th in the Premier League. So,
I mean, you mentioned the wide areas as well. I think for me, that's the part of the team that we would need to address to start fixing. Well, I'm saying fix this issue, but you know what I mean, to improve the numbers of goals, because people, say in our WhatsApp group all the time, the top teams have wingers who chip in when the strikers aren't scoring. And I think you're totally right with everything you say about Isidore and Brobby. Isidore in particular makes chances for himself out of basically nothing. So you stick another striker in there, we might actually see fewer chances. Never mind more. But then the wide areas, Talby alone, I think, has had at least 2 or 3 opportunities where other wingers would score. Man United away is the main one that jumps straight into my mind. You had that chance late on that he just side foot straight at the keeper. Even a Mundle maybe scores that. Never mind, a Salah or a Bukayo Saka or these kind of players. And that's not to have a dig at Talby, but just, if we'd had a bit more of a ruthless goal scorer in that position, we're probably looking at it going, oh, well, the wingers have chipped in with 4 or 5 and like you say, Xhaka maybe could have added another 1 or 2. So it's fine margins away from being a solved problem, basically. But
yeah,
it's the wide areas. I think you're right.
It's not as if the
wingers, tactically, but
it's not as if the wingers as well haven't contributed, because like Talby's got 2 and Traore's got 1, hasn't he? And obviously, I mean, we don't cast Mayan as a winger because he scored his goal. He's playing centre forward, but he played out on the wing. I think the big thing about that is, you mentioned Mundle as well, but also Simon Adingra, who scored 5 goals last season for Brighton. So you're thinking like he needs to probably contribute. I know he hasn't been playing as much, but now he's getting a chance now, isn't he, where he's probably going to be playing the Christmas games. And now is the time for him to contribute as well, and him getting into them positions as well.
Yeah. We've had a few really good points made on this. I mean, Joe Lewin's actually, this is what he said. Might as well read out what he actually said instead of fakely attributing someone else's opinion to him. He said, we are very good defensively, aided by a solid midfield. We had another one there from Ryan Evans. He's a little bit concerned. He said, we really should have won that game against Brighton with all the chances we had in the first half. Look, I get it. He says we haven't scored a goal from open play since the Liverpool game. It fair enough. We probably do need to improve in that regard. But I think for me, I'm confident that we will improve. And we're going to see a different side of this team over the next probably 2 to 3 weeks at least, where we don't have Traore, we don't have Talby. So other players are going to get opportunities, and they can't waste the opportunities. Like Adingra started on the weekend, and if he gets another chance in the next game and doesn't take it, Romain Mundle will get a chance after that. So as part of that, they've got to produce something. You've got to come away from a game and go, Simon Adingra tortured that fullback. Simon Adingra scored a good goal, great assist, like he did against West Ham. Great assist for Ballard's header. That's what we need to see, a little bit more of that. But we're talking about fine tuning. Yeah, we're not talking about like massive changes, which is not what we need. The long and short of it is, I don't think in January, and we'll get on to transfers in a bit, but I don't think our problem, and I'll do this with the bunny ears, yeah, I don't think our problem in terms of goal scoring will just be magically fixed by signing players.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yes, we need 1 or 2, but I don't think you're going to then all of a sudden have us banging them in for fun. You look at I don't have this up in front of us at the minute, but you look at the Premier League top scorer list, and you've basically got Erling Haaland, who's out there on his own, isn't he, with 19 goals. You've got Thiago at Brentford. And then after that, it's like a mix of just, the point being is the game has changed and teams aren't really reliant on one player anymore. It's a lot more about the game of chess you play through a game, isn't it? And how you just manage games out.
And even the Brentford lad, hasn't he scored 4 or 5 penalties?
A lot of penalties, yeah.
A lot of penalties. So that's still it's a lot of goals, but the open play argument people are making about us, so it applies exactly the same to them.
Mm.
Well, you look at the money spent on forwards. So Ekitike cost 80-odd million? He's got 8 goals, but he's not been playing every game for Liverpool.
But he's the only one who's succeeded, who's come in the summer as well, isn't he? Look at some of the money spent on some of these number 9s.
Well, Voldemort at the Mags, I think a few of his have been penalties.
Yep, Gyökeres at Arsenal.
Penalty
the better. Yeah.
João Pedro at Chelsea cost a fortune.
Mm.
Yep. He's got 5 goals and that's decent, but it's not. These teams have paid out a lot of money for these players. You mentioned Gyökeres there. How many of them have been penalties? Maybe 2.
Well, another one against Everton, wasn't it? The other day.
Yeah.
You can go right. I am literally right now scrolling down the list, and
Seshko at Man United. They spent an absolute fortune on him, and he's got a couple.
Yeah,
maximum.
So the point being, biggest example of them all, and I know he's injured now, but Alexander Isak.
Yeah,
150 million does not guarantee you goals.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say is you can't just sit there and go, Sunderland are struggling to score goals right when you go and buy another striker. It just doesn't work like that. We have to be a bit more thoughtful about this. And the point is that I think the club are very, very well considered now, and we don't rush into decisions. So I think what people are probably going to see is even more defensive style until we get players back from AFCON. Then it'll be a case of, right, who can we bring in January? Who can we improve the team with?
Gav, you mentioned them about the signings and stuff like that. Even you established number 9s aren't scoring. You know, obviously Erling Haaland's a beast. He's out in the way, isn't he? But you look at Mateta at Crystal Palace, who hasn't scored that many goals this season, who was on fire last year. Ollie Watkins at Villa, who were third in the table. Their goals are mostly coming from midfield and long range. Morgan Rogers, for instance. So, you know, it's not just the new ones. It's not just the game's kind of evolving where your number 9 isn't your number 9, if you know what I mean by that. It's a player who's going to lay on goals, going to bring players into play, everything like that. Take Haaland away, and you've got, as you said, a scattergun of players who are on 6-7 goals and that, and a lot of them have been from set pieces. It's where this season's been. And to kind of be flippant about the last lads remark, we did score a goal, play against the Mags, just wasn't our player. Still a great header, still more to play.
Unbelievable finish, unbelievable stuff. Worth every penny.
But you're right.
Yeah, right. We'll go for a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll round off with. I say round off. We've got loads left, but we'll be back after the break, anyways.
This episode is brought to you by McAfee.
Finish your fantasy lineup?
No, but I'm joining this paid group chat with insider info.
Dude, seriously? Forward it to me. Security alert from McAfee. That group's as legit as that knockoff jersey you're wearing.
McAfee's scam detector is available in all McAfee plans for as little as $39.99 for your first year. Learn more at McAfee.com/online protection.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event is on now with awesome deals on their most popular models, including adventure-ready SUVs like the Hyundai Santa Fe and Santa Fe Hybrid. There's also the stylish Elantra, packed with the latest tech, or go electric with the Ioniq 5 or Ioniq 6. Visit HyundaiUSA.com or call 562-314-4603 for more details.
And welcome back to Haway The Podcast, sponsored by Live Score Bet. And as I said before the break, got a lot of questions coming up. And before we do, I think Ant has had a reply from his dad about Charlie Hurley and Dan Ballard. So the question was by AP Mackham, how does Dan Ballard compare to the great Charlie Hurley?
Right, so he hasn't put a very detailed, because he's my dad, and my dad isn't very detailed.
If it's actually like my dad's just a thumbs up.
He hasn't just put yes, so that's good. So I asked him the question, not calling you old, can you compare Dan Ballard to Charlie Murphy? Being asked the question for the
Charlie
pod.
Murphy, who's it?
Charlie Hurley, sorry. Charlie Murphy, that's his mate. It's next door neighbour. He's not as good as Dan Ballard.
How does Dan Ballard compare to your next door neighbour? How are you on about?
Can you compare Dan Ballard to Charlie Hurley? Being asked the question for the pod, I'm not old enough to remember Charlie Hurley. Not calling you old, by the way. So he's replied, I am old. No, you're not, Dad. Jesus. They are similar players. Hurley is a legend and Ballard is still a very young player, but he will get there. He stays at Sunderland for a while and keeps his form up. So there you go.
There we go. Yeah. Well, it's longevity with Charlie Hurley. He did it for, 10 years at Sunderland or whatever it was. So, you know what I mean? That's when you start getting in that territory, isn't it? It's like, is this player a legend? But in terms of an out-and-out defender, and I can't imagine we've had many better. I mean, I hear some of the great stories that the lads tell on this week pods about Charlie Hurley and about how he was considered sort of a pioneer when it came to attacking corner, being a defender who went up for corners and scoring goals. It wasn't the done thing. Charlie Hurley kind of invented this. You watch Dan Ballard, you see how committed he is, see how much of a goal threat he is in the air. You can see why the comparisons are being made, and it will be being made by people who are old enough to have seen both of them play. So, yeah, good answer from Ant's dad. Well done.
Yeah.
And,
I've got a fun story
maybe
about
next
Charlie
time.
Hurley.
Well, maybe next time we'll get a a bit more of an idea of Charlie Murphy and see if
we can get him on the pod. Get me dad on the pod. I've got a funny story about Charlie Hurley, actually. When Quiddy had taken over the club, we were out in what was the Love Shack in Durham, and Crabbers was there. And I was talking to Crabbers for like forever. You know what I mean? Because like he's just Crabbers and he's a legend, and you know, big shout out to Crabbers. But Quiddy was there. I shook Quiddy's hand and all that. And then this guy also came over. I was like, "Oh, how are you doing this, that, and the other?" And I was mortal drunk, so I hadn't got a clue who he was. I was like, "Oh, are you part of Drummerville?" And he went, "No, I'm Charlie Hurley, you twat." I was like, "Oh my God." But he was honestly one of the most loveliest persons after that. He gave us it was me, mate, and a lad who's a Newcastle fan who was trying to be an idiot and Alcuin. But he signed us, he had these little things in his pocket, just pulled these photos out, signed them and stuff like that. Still got mine framed up there. It was like 20 years ago, honestly. He was such a lovely bloke. Such a lovely bloke.
Class. Right. We will, since we're reminiscing anyways, we'll do this next question. From Michael Conroy, who is Mike Con UK on Twitter. He says, "My son said that this is the best he's ever had it as a Sunderland fan. He started supporting us on the big slide. But where does this compare to the Quinn and Phillips era when we were flying?" Now, again, this is something that comes up quite a bit. I'll go at you first on this, Ant, because you are actually old enough to remember those days. And Johnny was mere speck of dust on the side of his mum and dad's dressing table. Yes. How does this compare to the Quinn and Phillips era for you?
Oh, it's very, very similar. Literally, we've just been talking about, though, haven't we? Like number 9s and all that. I mean, obviously, we had Quinny and Phillips who were banging the goals in, but it was just the style of football was lush. You know what I mean? And I bet no one cared about our XG and all that palaver about them. But anyway, but it is it is similar.
Your high horse again about that XG.
I'll not get off it, man. Honestly, I'll die on that hill. But I've got to be honest. I think this year, just from where we've come from all that stuff, and what was expected of us, and I think with the Quinn era we brought that style of football which hadn't been seen in that league. You know, the fact that we had a big man and a little man, two very, very quick wingers, marshalled by a fantastic midfielder in Stefan Schwarz. But we didn't really have that that really look at defensive. We were just with scrum or wasn't you? And that was brilliant. You know what I mean? I don't think that could work now. Whereas now it's just the quality of footballer that we've got. You know, I mean, I've like I say, I'm 40-year-old in May. You know, I've been going since I was 6, and I've got to say that Granit Xhaka is the best player I've ever seen.
I agree, by the way.
You know,
I
can't I can compare my, because I always go back to Stefan Schwarz. And Stefan Schwarz, I loved at Sunderland. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. And he was that glue that made us, you know, kind of stick in that year. Had we not signed Schwarz, I don't think we would have been anywhere near successful. But Xhaka just ticks every single box. You know, the fact that he's, you know, A, a brilliant footballer, B, a brilliant leader, and C, the fact he is such, he is just taking in what this club's all about. And then it's just been like this outpouring of, you know, passion and all that at the end of games. The fact he will not settle for anything less than, you know, than perfect, really. You know, the fact he's still having a pop at Siddiqui and I think it was Robin Ross last week against the Mags. The game was won, you know, it was a last minute stoppage time, and he's still demanding that. You know, he still wants that perfection, really, from, you know, a certain level of performance. And the fact that we've obviously brought in these players, international players, like, you know, like Mukiele, as we mentioned before. You know, we've developed players like Dan Ballard, who's gone through such a change in his career at Sunderland now. You know, he's for me, he's the best defender in the league. I've got to be honest. I think he's absolutely phenomenal. And still got the young players coming up like Chris Rigg and stuff like that. I honestly think this is the best team I've seen. Honestly, I really do. And I think this, what's good about this is, and I don't mean it, I'm not being cruel about the Peter Reid. The Peter Reid's team, it eventually fell off because teams found us out. You know what I mean? The second year not the second year, the third year and the fourth year were quite ugly because it just didn't work. Whereas I think with this, we could establish ourselves as a true force in this league. I really do think that. I think in the next 2 or 3 years, if we keep going on this forward trajectory, you're looking at a side that's going to get year after year. I really think that. So, you know, the highs are still brilliant. Don't get us wrong. You know, beating the Mags and all that stuff. The highs are class. But with this one, it just feels like this is more permanent than what under Reid it was. And like I say, I'm not saying anything bad about the pit, because Peter Reid will always be my hero in football. You know what I mean? I love the bloke a bit. We were on that 24-hour pod every few years ago, Gavin. I got genuinely upset because I was talking to my hero. You know what I mean? I genuinely got emotional about it. And so I love him a bit. But this team now is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
No, I would agree with that. I think this is the best team I've ever seen at Sunderland. I keep saying this after games. I think I said it about 20 times in the reaction pod after Newcastle. But it is. They've gave us the best year I've ever had supporting Sunderland, hands down. And I went to games during that era when we had Quinn and Phillips up front. I went every week, home and away. My dad ran a branch, so I was there for everything. And look, I was a kid, so I didn't appreciate it the way I maybe do now. But I can still look back on that era and appreciate how brilliant it was. And again, you said all of it before. The football was amazing. We had the most feared strike force in the Premier League for a period with Phillips and Quinn. But it didn't last that long, particularly. I think now I'm watching a team where I can't believe what I'm watching, where that was like a very functional team. Like, you know, we swapped Nicky Summerby for Craig Russell. You know what I mean? Like, he was a reserve at Manchester City, but we found a way of getting him into the team, which worked. You had Johnson on the other side, who signed for us in the Premier League like 2 years before that, and was actually signed as a right winger, moved over at the left, and the rest is history. Mickey Gray, who for a lot of his career had been a midfield player, dropped into left back, and Quinn had his Indian summer, so he was going to retire. He was going to sign for a team in Malaysia or something. You know, really good, cheap signings like Darren Williams from York and Jody Craddock from Cambridge, and getting Chris Macon back from France. You know, Steve Bould on a free. These players it was just the perfect mesh of players at that time. Whereas now I go to the games and I'm like, I can't believe Granit Xhaka plays for Sunderland. I can't believe Nordi Mukiele plays for Sunderland. I can't believe Omar Alderete plays for Sunderland. I go to the games and I'm just watching it. I'm like, I can't believe this team we've assembled. It's just so unbelievable what we've managed to do in such a short space of time.
Do you think that with this team though as well, it epitomises the club? Like, you know, like hard work. Yeah. Like, this is what Sunderland's about: hard work, determination.
We've actually recruited players that it makes sense to why you would sign that kind of character.
Yeah,
it's not like in the Premier League last time we were in there, where it would get to a transfer window and it was like, right, we need, and then it would be like someone like a cast off from a team
Manchester
and they're on big money and like the one that comes to mind immediately is like Jeremy and Lenz or Jack Rodwell. Like players that never made sense to sign them, but we paid a lot of money to do it. I know, sorry, Johnny. We paid a lot of money to get these players into the football club. And really, when you look at the makeup of the team, there might have been, in terms of a playing profile, right for us, but in terms of like mentally, were they right for Sunderland?
Yeah, I mean, just to bring a couple of things that you both said together, I think you're absolutely right. The big difference, obviously, I wasn't really particularly paying much attention at the age of sort of 1 and 2 to the Peter Reid era. But the closest thing I could compare it to is the Keane promotion and then, you know, the start of that 10 years in the Premier League. And you're right. I think Ant said before, the sustainability of this setup is the big, massive difference, the big glaring thing that we seem to have got right this time so far, obviously, that just wasn't present before. And like you say, Gav, that was so obvious in the transfer windows. Things were going right last time under Keane and then under Bruce, in particular in them first few years, because they were getting enough decisions right every transfer window to keep skating by. And then we had that one window where they got every single decision wrong, basically, when we sold Henderson, we lost Sully Muntari, we lost, you know, I can't remember the exact transfers, but we lost like that team that had Mensah, Muntari, Henderson, Bent, Jean, Welbeck, you know, all these players. And then all of a sudden you rock up the next August and you go, oh, right, so now we've got Craig Gardner, David Vaughan, Seb Larson. Not sure what we're doing here, lads. And then it was basically the slide began there, didn't it? This time that shouldn't happen, because the recruitment, everything behind the scenes is so joined up and well thought through that we're not getting to the transfer window, like you're saying, going, shit, what do we need? Like, who can we afford from the bargain basement of Europe?
Yeah.
That's not happening this time.
Right, we'll move on slightly since we're on the topic of status and ambition and all those things. LD on Twitter, he says, we aren't going down. Where should we be aiming for now, Ant?
Oh, do you remember a few weeks, no, it was about a couple of months ago now, and I think it was the same, there was us three and there was Andrew, and Johnny mentioned 7. And we all laughed at it, didn't we? We did. And Johnny's sitting there now, and honestly, this isn't, we're not going out on TV or live. Johnny is sitting there with the smuggest grin on his face now, right? Because you can see it, can't you? You can see a European push. You know, we've got over the hump of...
Hey, you're preaching to the choir here, and I've been saying it for ages. There's no reason why we can't.
You've got to remember when the start of the season came, we were all like petrified about December, weren't we? I was like, that's horrible with the fixtures. That
and a lot of people were though, yeah.
A lot of people were like, and we've lost to City. Yeah, pretty much everyone's going to go to City and lose. You know what I mean? City for me are going to win the league. I think they're fantastic this year. But we've beat Newcastle. We drew, very good draw against Liverpool, which you could argue we should have got all 3 with Wilson's chance at the end. But the fact that we were so dominant in that game as well. And then you look at Brighton away, and again, another one. Teams are going to struggle to go to the Amex and come away with a clean sheet. You know what I mean? And we're doing really well
if
there.
You look at the record this season there, Brighton are all right at home. Yeah.
So, you know, like, obviously we've got City coming up and we've got Leeds. It's going to be a cracking game. That'll be a great game, that was against. That'll be a fantastic game. And then you look at January, it starts to even out again, doesn't it? Where you go to teams that we've beat at home, away from home, where we're struggling. I think, to answer the question in a rough way, I think we can genuinely make the top 10. But I think we can't. I haven't seen anything from anyone this year that were in and around who were a mile better than us. So it just needs a good run. Needs us to go on a run where we'll win 4 or 5 in a row, which it hasn't happened yet, but we're very capable of doing it. So I think we can push for it. But listen, I think anything top 10 or above now, because I think if you go to where it comes towards the end of the season with Saturday and it's we finished 12th and we finished 13th, I think you look and think, well, hang on, we were 6th at Christmas. So it's kind of a fall off in form then, and I don't see this team falling off in form.
You mentioned the teams around us as well, and I was actually having this conversation in the pub yesterday, actually, with one of my mates, and talking about this group of teams that we're in that are sort of just below the Champions League places. Because I think, look, Arsenal, City, probably Aston Villa, realistically Chelsea, and probably Liverpool. That's probably your top 5 come the end of the season, just in some order. Maybe that's different than what it is now. So Champions League's out of the question unless something ridiculous happens. So then,
how mad is it that you're even saying that?
Yeah, it's Christmas. We're talking.
Well, we might not get the fucking Champions League.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It's fucking brilliant. But top 5, let's live in the real world for a minute. In that group of teams below, are you petrified of anybody? Because I'm not.
No.
I look at Man United. We could just as easy turn them over 4-0 at the Stadium of Light as we could get beat off them, because God knows which Man United's turning up on any given day. I'm not scared of Palace. We've already played them away from home, took a point. And I think their second half of the season, they're going to fall off a bit. Brighton, we've just played them away from home, took a point. I'm not scared of them. I don't see any of them going on a consistent enough run to do what Ant said, where you put 5 or 6 wins together and then bang, you're clear of everyone. You look further down the table. I mean, I don't see Everton being in the top 7 or 8 race under David Moyes, because I hate him. The Mags will probably put a run together at some point, but are we scared of them?
Do you know what it is when I'm not just saying this because we just played them or anything, because the Mags, but when this happened when they were in the Champions League last time, they do not balance that well.
Yeah.
Between the league and the cups.
They need too much intensity to play well to be able to sustain it over a full season of Champions League.
And you saw on Saturday what happened with that. They can't do that for 90 minutes. They dropped off, had a really good start. Then Chelsea came into it, and Chelsea eventually got the draw. Because Newcastle cannot maintain that. They can't do it all season. That's their problem. They're not going to go on that run, are they? They're not going to go on that run.
Well, they're not going to do what they did last season, where
no.
they won 9 in a row, something ridiculous like that, and shot right up the table.
And you'd be petrified in what Eddie Howe said during it. He says he doesn't know what team's going to show up. You'd be petrified if you're a Mac saying that. If you're a Mac fan saying that.
And I think probably as a byproduct of so much of the league being in Europe this season, so many teams are like that. They're just so wildly inconsistent from week to week. I think there's no reason why. And listen, okay, Xhaka needs to not get a broken leg, right? That has to be true for any of this to happen. But I don't see why there's any of those teams we should be scared of. If we make a couple of smart additions in January, I'd be thinking top 8 should be the bottom of what we're aiming at, and we should be thinking, listen, we could push for 6th here. Now, look, like I say, stuff needs to go right for that to happen, but I'm not scared of anybody who's in that mix with us.
No, I think you're right. I really do. And you look at it as well, that Man United have just lost Bruno Fernandes with what will be a fair bit of time because he went off with his hamstring yesterday. So there's their big player out. You know what I mean? So, and teams are going to lose players. You mentioned as well with Europe and stuff. So,
well, you even look at Liverpool losing Isaac. I know he's not played well, but Salah's probably going to. Well, that might change all now if Isaac's broke his leg. But anyways, the point being is that all these teams have their own problems, and I think the point you made there, Johnny, about so many of the teams being in Europe has made a big difference this season. It really has. Look, if we're going to get onto transfers in a bit, but there is that question about like where we are now gives us the edge in terms of being able to go out there and sign a different level of player. But we'll come on to that in a bit. We do have a question from Jack Asbury, who said lots of people, and then in brackets Mags, said we'd be relegated by Christmas. And while a lot of us naturally push back on that, I don't think anyone would have said we'd end up 6th going into Christmas. Do you think we've potentially shown future promoted clubs how to survive? I'll come to you with that one, Johnny. I think we have probably changed the blueprint a bit here, haven't we? Because the whole topic of conversation in the summer was promoted teams all go straight back down. Somebody's going to have to buck the trend eventually, but how do you do it? The Premier League's too tough. There's too many good teams, too many good players. It's almost impossible to come out of the Championship and break the mould. Sunderland have went out and gone, actually, with good recruitment and being ambitious in terms of how much you spend, you can fight. So do you think teams who are, I haven't even looked at the Championship. I know Borough were up there. I'm going to do it really quickly and buy myself some time here.
That's up to.
Yeah,
there's, so like, I'm just opened it there now.
Hanging around 3rd or so.
Yeah. So I'm looking at it now. You've got Coventry walking the league, really. Borough, 5 points clear in 2nd. Ipswich, Hull, Preston, Millwall. Really, you're looking at Coventry, Borough, Ipswich, maybe Hull here. I don't know. But these teams will be looking at us, won't they, and thinking that's how you probably have to go and do it next year.
Yeah, I think in some ways we have, and in other ways I think we're impossible to follow. So I think in a lot of ways, just purely in terms of like the style of play and stuff on the pitch, I think, yeah, absolutely, it should be a blueprint for promoted teams. I remember some of the pundits, I think Wayne Rooney on the first match of the day, the first match of the day of the season when we'd beat West Ham, from as early as then, he was talking about, like, look at the way Sunderland play. The very, might not have been Rooney, whoever it was anyway, they were talking about, Sunderland are aggressive, physical, this is the way you should play. And then I think Gary Neville talked about it as well on Sky Sports, a few weeks after that. So people were picking up on that at the start of the season, I think correctly so, that we're the opposite of some of the recent promoted teams, especially I think of Vincent Kompany's Burnley or Russell Martin's Southampton. Possession for possession's sake, trying to be open and expansive just because they think that's what people want to see. Way too inflexible to change. We're the opposite of that. Pragmatic, defensive, solid, adaptable. And I actually think Leeds are a little bit similar to that. I think, and it's something that surprised me, their run of form recently, because I didn't think Daniel Farke had it in him to be as adaptable as that. But I think between the pair of us, we've shown that if you have enough, like, don't be too proud to invest in physicality and be a team who mixes it up and, gets up and at people and a bit dirty sometimes as well. Like, you've got to use every possible advantage you can get as a promoted team. And those advantages aren't going to be possession, passing, first touch. They're just not. You'll get ripped to bits. So a lot of ways, yes. But in some very important ways, no. One is that we were the perfect PSR club in a PSR world, with everything just perfectly timed, barely any spent to get out the Championship, a few high-profile sales, including a couple of academy players to be able to finance everything.
Low wage bill.
Low wage bill, yeah. Having spent that time in League One, being able to just totally restructure the club from the ground up while not being in the Premier League or the Championship. You know what I mean? Like, all of these things came together at the perfect time.
High match day revenues is another one, selling the stadium out. Yeah.
Massive stadium, massive fan base, already got a state-of-the-art academy and training facilities and all the rest of it. So a lot of ways you can't follow us, and also PSR's going by the by. It's getting replaced by something else. So the system that we thrived in isn't going to exist. So I don't think you're going to be able to ever see another Championship club come up and sign a Granit Xhaka like we could, because I think, like, down to the ownership and the sporting directorship, everything had to be so perfectly aligned for some of that to come off. But on the pitch, absolutely, I think the way that we play, if the top end Championship teams aren't watching us every week this season, they should be.
Yeah, that is a good point you made there about basically us just being pretty unique in what we could do in the transfer market, because with all the will in the world, Coventry, Borough, Ipswich, Hull, Preston, Millwall, who make up the top 6, those aren't clubs who are going to convince a Granit Xhaka to come and play for them. Coventry have spent a lot of money to be top of the Championship. I know they didn't spend it all this year, but you remember they had some high profile sales, and they then spent quite a lot of money to bring in Haji Wright, Ellis Sims, and whoever else. And that's happened over a couple of years. Borough have chucked money at their team year on year. You can't fault their owner, he backs them, but they're not going to have that level of flexibility we had. Ipswich, well, you saw what happened with Leicester. When Leicester went down, came back up, they didn't have the room to manoeuvre because of their previous spending. Now, Ipswich spent a lot of money in the Premier League on players they're not going to recoup much on. I mean, I know they made money on Delap.
Championship super team, didn't they?
Yeah. They made money on Delap, they made money on Hutchinson. But, again, they're not going to have that ability to spend. Hull, I don't know what's going on with their ownership, but they were in bother for a while there. And they've just seemed to have had a really good season. So, point being is again, you're right. In terms of style of play, yes. You come up, you play a pragmatic style of football. But you need to be able to play a pragmatic style of football with quality footballers. Because Burnley have tried to do that, and they don't have the same quality of footballer we do, and Burnley are struggling. So, there is... I think we've kind of shown people it can be done, but they're not going to have the same sort of quality that we've done it with, necessarily. Couple more questions before we go for another ad break, because there's quite a lot to get through. Mang the Ram has said, and I'll give you this one, Ant, has said, when Diarra is back, does he come off the bench, or do you just put him back in the middle with Enzo on the wing? I like Enzo in the middle, but I think the latter puts more speed and creativity on the field together. Now, I know it's a difficult one to answer that, because we don't know where we're going to be at by the time Diarra comes back. But I was thinking about this earlier, that with him fit, with Siddiqui available, with Enzo playing... I mean, Enzo, to be honest, nobody has profited more from Diarra being missing than Enzo, I would say, because he's really stepped it up in terms of his influence on the team. It does make it interesting, doesn't it? Because we're then going to have to start thinking about who plays where. So where can you see this sort of leading, certainly after AFCON?
I certainly think it'll be something where we're playing at home in games where we're expecting to win. I think you put Enzo in the 10 because it gives us that a little bit more freedom and creativity. I think with that, so I think he's a phenomenal player. I think, as mentioned before, what about him getting picked for France? he's been outstanding. You know what I mean? Being one of them unsung heroes, I think, this season. I've got to be honest. I think he's been outstanding. But then away from home, where you want to grind teams down, you want to be physical, you want to be strong, you want to be hard. Put Diarra in, there'll be no issues there. You can even look at where you can give Siddiqui a break, can't you? Where Siddiqui's like ran his tits off for 90 plus 7 minutes every game this season. You know what I mean? There will come a time where he picks up a little muscle strain or something along those lines because he doesn't stop. So it gives us that freedom of allowing to do that. Even with Hertrude, who had a really good game on Saturday, I thought, you can put him in. It gives us that solidity. You know what I mean? So I don't think it necessarily means there's a question now. Would you want one or the other? I think you can have both.
Yeah, we're gonna need options as well. I mean, we're being linked with Matteo Guendouzi, for instance. So you could have more players coming in. But we're going to get injuries, we're going to get suspensions, we're going to have other problems coming up, and you need to be equipped. That's one of the things. We're in such a fortunate position. We can't undo that work by leaving ourselves really short in the squad. So no, that's a fair point.
Do you think as well, though, Gav, it gives us that option as well? I actually mentioned Sadiq, but we're even going back to Granit Xhaka. Like, you know, Granit Xhaka, for as much as we all love him now, he's not going to last forever, is he? You know what I mean? He's 33, so you're looking at what, another 2-3 years if we're lucky, you know, of Granit Xhaka being at his best. Is it something where this year they could look at?
Don't even want to consider that, mind.
I know, but is it something where they can look at? Oh, we'll give Granit the rest. And
Johnny's got a pet lip thinking about it.
But it's something to look at, though, isn't it? Where you can give him a rest. You can play Siddiqui, Gertruda, or Diarra in a 3. You know what I mean? And see what Diarra can do as that holder, because that's what Diarra looks like to me. You know, a long-term holding midfielder. So it gives us that option.
Like how cultured you are there. And you 2 separate pronunciations of Gertruda's name. We had Hertruda, then Gertruda.
Oh, I'm a Hertruda. I'm a Hertruda camp, sorry.
Oh, yeah, you're accommodating everybody.
Yeah. Because I keep on getting players' names wrong, so there we are. But I am very much in the Hertruda camp, so...
Last one before the break, Johnny. Steve Hornyman, which I hope is his real name. He says, Xhaka and Enzo are both on 4 yellow cards. One more, they will miss a game if both get cards against Leeds. We're going to be very short in midfield against Man City. What would we do? So, completely hypothetical situation here. Xhaka and Enzo Lafay both get yellows against Leeds. We then go into the Manchester City game without them. What would we do? Would we just cry?
I don't know how much I can be arsed thinking about yellow cards again after the pre-derby discourse.
To be honest, Johnny, right? You're probably going to give the same sort of answer to what you did then.
Yeah. Look, if it happens, it happens. We'll have to adapt. I think in terms, the interesting bit of it is who would actually come in and play there, right? That's the interesting part of this question. I think for Xhaka, the only thing we can do is play a Geertruida in there. I think we need to play somebody who can sit and positionally protect the defence. That's because I think you're never going to get someone in there who can do everything Xhaka can do. That's not possible because he's that good. He's irreplaceable. So we're not going to be able to replicate him. I think we just need to try and get the most important part of his role, which again, okay, we can't because the most important thing is his experience and his communication, but being able to protect the back 4 or back 3 or, you know, whoever's behind him. Because how many times do we see where the opposition will break and Xhaka just ends up in the right place to just screen things, slow the opposition up, that kind of thing. So I think you'd need a Geertruida or somebody like that in there to screen the defence. And then somebody needs to replicate Enzo's work rate. So whoever that is has to go in there. I mean, I think that's you'd be getting to the point where you could make a good case for Trey Hume to start in midfield at that point. You know, maybe a Geertruida and Hume go in there to give us some solidity, and then you fit what pieces you can around that going forward. But other than that, I can't do more suspension chat. I can't. Whenever it resets, bring that date on, please.
Yeah. Right, we'll head for another break, and then when we come back, it's all transfers, which I'm sure Ant cannot wait for. So we'll see you then.
When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite. Obey your thirst.
In Walmart's Nouville, time was ticking away. Only a few nights left till the big holiday. But last-minute gifters had no need to worry. Walmart Express Delivery got their gifts in a hurry. From Nintendo to Nespresso and Lego flowers, they could check off their lists in as fast as an hour. All of Nouville, East, West, South, and North, could order gifts up until 5 p.m. on December 24th. So this holiday, just do as the Who's do. With gift delivery this fast, they all gasped. From Walmart, who knew? Subject to availability, terms and fees apply.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing the protection of an offensive guard on the football field, but getting an elementary school crossing guard. Sure, they're both guards, but you can only trust one to keep your quarterback safe when the game is on the line. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Welcome back to Haway The Podcast, sponsored by LiveScoreBet. And as I said before the break, we're going to chat about transfers now, just to finish things off. We've had, again, a lot of questions around this. The first one is from someone who I presume isn't related to Dan Ballard. It's Derek Ballard, and he sent us one in by email, Johnny. And it's a good point. We were talking about this off air before we started. And it's about the African Cup of Nations. He said, given the proposed move of AFCON to be played every 4 years, are there any thoughts on recruiting African players when there will be an AFCON in both 2027 and 2028? So for people who don't know, basically AFCON currently is arranged by the African Federation. Don't know the exact title, but it's not a FIFA tournament. Going forward, it will be. So the last year that it is an African tournament, an African Federation tournament, is 2027. It will then also be played in 2028, because it will then become every 4 years in the same way the Euros are, the same way the South American tournament is. So you're going to have 2 years basically where your players are going to be in a competition. However, and I don't have this information in front of us, they could be summer tournaments by then. I don't know, but on that basis though, Johnny, and what Derek said, knowing that we're going to lose players to tournaments, do you think that will have any sort of bearing on our want to bring in African players or not?
Well, after how well it's gone this season, I hope not. I hope we keep signing them. I think we should have AFCON every season, so nobody else wants to sign any of them. We could just hoover them all up. But no, I mean, on a serious note, I think it's going to be interesting to see how the schedule unfolds, because like you say, we don't know yet exactly what, well, maybe some people know, but we just haven't actually looked for the information yet. But we don't know when that, particularly the 2028 one's going to be. I would imagine if that's the first one that they're moving to the FIFA governance of, I'd imagine 2028 at least is going to be in the summer. So really, I don't think it should make a massive amount of difference, because the 2027 one is going to be presumably mid-season again, as is standard, and is 2 years away. So that's just your average AFCON cycle. And then if the next one's in the summer, it shouldn't really impact us massively. I mean, it'll be interesting, I suppose, because with it being a summer tournament, you generally get more of a transfer boost for your players when they play in it. Like, how many times have we seen, somebody has 3 or 4 good games at a World Cup and all of a sudden somebody's chucked 50 million on them, and by the end of the transfer window. So it'll probably change things a little bit in that sense. There'll be some wider ripples in the transfer market, but other than that, I don't think, certainly from our point of view, selfishly as well, I don't think we should do anything any different.
Yeah. Moving on slightly, we've had a couple of questions about Dan Neil. Obviously, in that conversation there, we were talking about who would play in the event of playing Man City, and we had players missing. He wasn't even mentioned. Didn't look anywhere near at the weekend when we were missing players in midfield. Didn't even come off the bench. I think the writing's probably on the wall with Dan Neil, and we've had a couple of questions. Rai XCL has said, with a lot of players not getting game time, such as Dan Neil, would you send them out on loan in January or full sell to gain more funds for future investments? And Marley Hannon has said, is Dan Neil finished as a Sunderland player come January? Feels to me like the club will cash in on him and sign a solid box-to-box midfielder and a new young 6. The fact he couldn't get a spot in the 11 years Brighton felt damning to me. There's been stories this week linking him with moves to teams in the Championship. I think Ipswich were one of them. Can't remember the others, but yeah, what do you reckon? It does kind of feel like the writing's on the wall with Daniel, doesn't it?
I think the only way he plays is if, I mentioned before, Shatter and if they get yellows against Leeds. I think that's the only way you would get in. And even then, I think you'd find a way not to put him in, to be honest, because it's over, isn't it? And it's a shame, because obviously, he's a young lad, Sunderland lad, Sunderland fan, captain the side and stuff. But listen, he hasn't signed a new contract, and the club are going to get. It doesn't matter what fee they get from him in January. It's 100% profit because he's academy product. It has to happen. It's going to happen. It's a shame, because I would have liked to have seen him, have a game or two in the Premier League. But I think it goes to show the difference in the gulf in class. Because had Dan Neil been a regular in centre midfield this season, I don't think we'd have won as many games as what we did. And again, I'm not bringing Daniel down. I think Daniel's a great footballer. He's got the capabilities of being a Premier League footballer in his time. I think we mentioned it last year, Gav, where we thought he was ready this year. And, obviously Register Brister's thought different and brought players in. He'll go. He'll go in January. I think it'll be, about 5-6 million or something to a Premier League, a Championship side who want to get promoted. And he'll do well. And I wish him all the best. But it's time, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, he was good enough for us last season, and he had the odd days where he wasn't great, but he more often than not, Daniel turned up. And you look at the impact Alan Brown's had at Middlesbrough, someone who never got in our team last year, so there is a big difference in class. Just to piggyback off something you said there, we were having conversations about Daniel last year and saying he's ready for the Prem, but my expectations for the Premier League have altered completely given the level of player we signed. Had we not gone out and done what we'd done in terms of bringing in Xhaka and Siddiqui, we would have probably been down the bottom end of the table right now and fighting against relegation. And he would have been good enough in that situation, I think. But yeah, what do you reckon, Jonny? And not just Daniel, I know that Rai also mentioned, other players not getting games. I think you'd probably call into that Eliza Mayenda, Leo Hjelde. So I'm just trying to think of some of the players who were on the bench at the weekend who probably aren't going to get anywhere near. Like, where's your sort of head at in terms of outgoings in January, and in particular those players?
I think it's still a long season. So there's still, there's plenty of twists and turns, plenty of football to be played. Just cast your minds back to the start of the season, or even the end of the transfer window, because fair enough, start of the season, the players weren't all here. Mukiele was playing centre-back and looked absolutely unbelievable. Now he's a full-back. Trey Hume was starting every game at right-back. Now he plays left-back if he starts, or maybe right wing-back. Diarra seemed irreplaceable, and now we're having conversations about how can he get back in. Lefay was a left winger or not playing. Now he's playing every game in the middle of midfield. Like, things change very quickly, and I still think I'm going to sound like I'm more annoyed about this than I am, but it's a bit of a bugbear with the wider fan base. So tin hat on, but people need to get their heads around the fact that starting 11s don't exist anymore. It's just not a thing. There's no such thing as a first choice 11 or even a first choice 13 or 14. That doesn't exist. It's gone. It's not coming back. There's too much football. There's too many fitness concerns. There's too many games played in a season to set your team at the start of the season and forget about it. Just because somebody starts a game doesn't mean he's suddenly first choice for the next 6 months. Just because somebody misses a game or plays out of position. Everything's so short term now. People need to understand this. Mayenda started the season first choice. Now we never see him again. Does that mean he's finished? No. He's still got chance in the second half of the season. Could come off the bench, could start a game out of nowhere, scores 2, never looks back. Like, everyone seems a bit quick to just, judge players and say, well, Mayenda's not getting football, maybe he needs a loan. Chris Riggs not getting football, maybe he needs a loan. Look at the weekend. Chris Riggs starts again out of nowhere because of AFCON. Like, these players are still learning behind the scenes. Do you think Chris Riggs better off with Granit Xhaka every week? Or, rocking up at a championship club and he's playing on the pitch on a Saturday, but who's he training with Monday to Friday? So, I think we should be players at Mayenda, players like a Rig, players like that. We should keep them around because they're still going to be useful. They're still going to get minutes. Then, okay, players like Hjelde, players like, I think Jay Matete still somehow exists at the club, which...
God, I forgot about him.
Genuinely, that it feels wrong. It feels as wrong to me as knowing that Pep Guardiola managed against the last Sunderland team that was in the Premier League and this one. I'm like, that can't be right, but it is. And Matete still existing is one of those. I don't get it. But Matete should go. Pembele should go. Bar should go. Hjelde probably should go as much as he's a vibesman. These lads who clearly don't have a future, fair enough, get shot. Because even if you're only bringing in nominal fees or $1 million here or just getting them off the wage bill, it all contributes, doesn't it, to balancing the books. And every player that we sell is that little bit of extra money towards another player we can buy. So, I think we need a little bit of a clear out, but I'd be hesitant on the lads who are in and around the first team squad because they could still easily do a job for us yet.
Yeah. And the only reason we're mentioning Dan Neil really is because he's out of contract, isn't it? You don't want to lose an academy product for nothing.
And the same with Dennis. The same with Dennis Cirkin. I know he's not an academy product, but he's been here that long, hasn't he?
Well, that's it. You know, if these lads had 3 years on the contracts, we wouldn't even be talking like this.
Conversation.
They'd be part of the squad, and Daniel would have played more, I think, as well. The reason we're having these conversations, particularly with Neil and to a slightly lesser degree Cirkin, is the club have got rid of popular players under this regime who were running out of contract. I think back to Danny Bath and Alex Pritchard are the two that come straight to mind, who were playing first team football, but because their deals were coming up, they probably wanted to stay at Sunderland, but their deals were coming up. The club were looking at it and going, we can get, 300,000 off Birmingham for Alex Pritchard, let's do it.
Yeah.
Or whoever he went to, Sivaspor, whatever it was.
They've got to make them decisions for the best of the club, which is what they've done. You know, even look at the transfer window just gone. You mentioned Alan Brown, who really is doing well at Borough. You know, really is having a really good season. You know, not good enough to play for this team, that's fair enough. Patrick Roberts, I mean, we love Patrick Roberts in this podcast, don't we? You know what I mean? Got to Birmingham, done really well, scored a couple of goals. He's not getting a game for us. You know what I mean? So it's rightfully so. And I think Johnny mentioned, going back to, the Pembeles and the Matetas. I think that's where you've got to look at in January, where you just to free up some wages, because obviously, I think it's Jan Pavieda's on a lot of money, isn't he? I think he got a decent pay rise for getting promoted, so he has got to go in January because we need to reinvest that wages to get the next player who's coming in for us. Does Jefferson Bennett still play for us, by the way, or is he out on loan? Because where is he at?
I think he's in Ukraine. I think we sent him to Ukraine, and he's never been seen since.
Where he's like, but just getting like these players off the wage bill, and Leo Kjelder as well, and you know what? Leo Kjelder's Leo Kjelder, you know what I mean? And I thought it was nice he was on the bench on Saturday. I didn't want him to spend a minute on the pitch, don't get us wrong, but I thought it was nice. But yeah, if we can get a bid in for him like £1 million or something, then just take it, you know what I mean? But your point about this, your best 11, your best 14 is fantastic, by the way, because that's what every, established team in this league is doing. You've got players who are for the situation, not just for, you're not going to, gone is the day where a manager says, this is my best 11, and if everyone's fit, that's going to happen. It's completely changing. Football's changed in that way.
So we're saying out Pembele, in Dembele, because next question is from Bonjour Twitter. That's Archie B on Twitter. He says, when does the prospect of signing Ousmane Dembele become realistic? Now, obviously that's not happening. But I just wanted to bring that up because...
But obviously Granit Xhaka wasn't going to sign for us when we got promoted, though.
Let's get Dembele then.
I've got no fucking concept of what can happen anymore. I don't understand football. It's broken me fucking brain
genuinely,
this
right?
season.
So let's just say this is absolutely mental to suggest it, right? But end the season, we finish 5th and it's good enough for the Champions League, right? It's a place above where we are now.
How is that a thing that we can say at Christmas?
I'm just going to move on because whatever.
No, but the most mental thing is, right, I know what you were going to say. Let's say we finish 5th, we sneak in. He's best mates with our owner.
Yeah.
He's been to the
Ballon
ground.
d'Or winner, let's get him in.
Do you know what it reminds us of? Like, I think it was the last England Ashes over here. Now, we don't talk about cricket much, but I think Ben Stokes had sent Moeen Ali, who was his best mate, like a text saying, Ashes, fancy it. And Moeen Ali came out of retirement to play in that Ashes series, right? You just imagine Kirill at the end of the season, and we've got a for Europe court, and it's been Dembele. Sunderland fancy it.
the really terrifying thing is, right? I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, but yeah, why not? Why not? And it's scary that we can ask that question because it used to be, well, it's fucking obvious why not, because we're crap and we're Sunderland and we've got no money. Who the hell would want to come here? But now I'm like, what? And it's my brain's doing that weird thing where it starts going, this doesn't make sense now. This needs to stop.
Yeah, computer's broken. Switch on and off. Right, next one. Lou, he says, if you could pick one player, this is your favourite type of question, this, Ant. If you could pick one player within, let's say, a 30 million budget to sign for the squad, who would you want us to sign and why? And
does it have to be
on the spot?
Does it have to be for 30 million?
No, you just
because if I pick one player, and obviously again, Newsy's thing is, I think he would really would improve us. But, and I said this at the start of the season, Danny Welbeck, because
Fair
I think
enough.
you bring him
I wasn't
in.
expecting that, but
You've got two young strikers, like Wilson is just still learning, but you got Azamai and then you've got Brian Brobby, who's still, quite young, learning the trade, everything like that. You've got a player there who's been there, done that for a long time in his career.
Yeah.
I don't hate that,
and I don't
still
hate that
doing really well at Brighton. Like scoring against the Mads, which is an added plus. He played here, still has good memories here. You can tell every time he mentions us, 15 million quid. I honestly think he would be superb for us and superb for our strikers.
He's still, I mean, he is, he's 35, but he's still scoring goals at this level and has done for a good few years now.
He had an interview, Gav.
I don't hate that at all.
Oh, he had an interview on 5 Live. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. It might have been just after beat the Mags actually when he scored. So it'd have been longer. And he was on like the Monday Night Club with Mark Chapman and that. And they said like, what's changed? Because obviously he still gets like injuries or whatever like that. But he was known at Arsenal to be quite injury prone, wasn't he? And he just said, what's changed? He says, wait, I know how I respect my body more now. And I respect, what the scientists and what everyone's saying to him. Well, he said the biggest thing he gets now is a good night's sleep. That's all. That was different when he was out young and he was partying and that. He wasn't doing that. But now he's turned 30, he's got a young family and everything like that. He can now get a good night's sleep. He doesn't, go out or anything like that. And he listens to his body. And I think he's class. I've always liked him. I just think it's when you look at that, couple of years, bring him in. You don't have to start him or anything like that. You know what I mean? But what a player to have. You know what I mean? That would be my one, to be honest.
I don't hate that suggestion at all. I didn't see that coming, I've got to admit. But I don't hate that suggestion at all because I think if you do look at that front line, and probably somebody like that is what we are missing if we're going to bring someone in, Johnny, like an experienced head, someone who's still playing at the top of their game. If I was being picky, I'd want someone a couple of years younger than Welbeck, probably. But I don't hate that idea of going and getting someone who has for a long time scored in the Premier League in the summer, because he was mentioned in the summer, Welbeck, and I know for a fact the club were trying to sign Danny Welbeck in the summer. We talked about that on the pod. It was something we explored. It didn't come off or whatever. But we were also saying at the time, like Jamie Vardy wouldn't have been a bad signing. And he's went to Italy. I can't remember the name of the team player. So Cremonese, I think. I don't know if you say it like that. And he's actually scoring goals in Serie A. And he's older than Welbeck is. So I don't know. What do you think about that in terms of like maybe an experienced centre forward coming in?
Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't say it coming at all. But the more Ant spoke, I was like, yeah, actually, I could kind of see that. It's one of those where I think, from a financial point of view, it wouldn't make a massive amount of sense. But just as a fan who just wants to see good football on the pitch, I could absolutely see Welbeck coming in and giving us a bit something extra and just helping to elevate some of them other lads. So, yeah, I don't hate that. But I think in terms of other options, Guendouzi's the obvious one who the links are there. And, there's lots of reasons why that would make sense. But I do agree. I think somebody with a bit of experience in that forward line, whether it's a centre forward, whether it's a winger, I don't really care, to be honest, but I do think we could do with somebody extra, probably on the left wing, I think, if we're being really picky about it, because I think Talby's done well there and, Adingra can play there, but left wing, we know the club were trying to sign a left winger in the summer and didn't end up managing to bring a marquee signing in. So I think that'll be an area you'd want somebody to come in with a bit of nous, almost a Xhaka-esque type of effect. I mean, again, we're not going to sign anyone on that level, but somebody who can come in and just help knit things together a bit more going forward. Because as we spoke about earlier in the pod, if you're being greedy, that's the one part of the team you'd like to improve. And I think just a bit of cohesion's maybe missing because there's so many players coming together. So somebody who could maybe help out with that, I think, would be a sensible signing. But yeah, Welbeck for 15 million. I'm on board. I'm in. You've got it.
Yes. Yeah. We've had obviously a bunch of questions about transfers, and they're largely saying the same thing. So rather than read every question out individually, I'll go through them, and then we'll kind of give more of a considered outlook ourselves on transfers.
I think that's a cracking idea, Gav, to be fair.
Yeah. Rob Ellison Davidson says, what positions do you think are critical to January in the continued success of the season? So that's more like what rather than just making sure the squad's as is. What can we do to keep the momentum going effectively? Elliot, bunch of numbers on Twitter, says, before the Everton game, KLD came out and spoke about a top 10 finish if we are around that area, which we are. So does that mean he will splash the cash on more quality than quantity? He said he would like a left-back, creative right-winger and Guendouzi, but he has full trust in the hierarchy. Joe Lewins again says that Saturday's lineup highlighted the need for a right-sided midfielder or forward, as it looks like Regis doesn't trust Adingra and it's not Riggs' position. I know it's been discussed before, but do you think that position has to be a priority in this window? So there's another person making a point about the right-hand side of the attack, which when I was listening to you there, Johnny, I was actually thinking, I think we need more of a right-sided attacking player on the left. We've got Mundle, Adingra, Talby for that side, Traore on the right, really. Looking at the other ones we've got here, Roy of the Rokers says, looking at the team on Saturday, it's fair to say we need a left-sided centre-half and a central midfielder as January priorities, possibly a left-back if Sirkin's not signing a new deal, and a right-winger as Traore's deal is up this summer, which is something else I hadn't really considered about Traore. He's only on a 1-year deal, isn't he? And last but not least, Tenchy Lad says, if or when we strengthen in January, what area of the team will it be? At the expense of who? I would be happy with no additions, as I feel we have enough, and also don't want to bring someone in for the sake of it unless we move someone on into the wider squad. So lots and lots of questions and points around transfers there. But the thrust of it, I guess, and you're both looking pretty confused after what Roy of the Rokers said.
I'm
there.
absolutely gobsmacked that he says we need a left-sided centre-half. Like, I am gobsmacked by that. Who are you replacing?
Let's just replace one of the best centre-backs any of us have ever witnessed play football for Sunderland in Alderete. Yeah, it sounds like a great idea, mate.
Well, maybe we just need.
That was quite harsh in the end. Really.
You're a bit of a knob there, Johnny. Like,
sorry, lad, but also leave Alderete alone. Step off.
I will say about Roy of the Rokers, he does ask questions nearly every week, and they all are spot on. Like, but that one, I'm not sure. And he's got a great Twitter in him. So, he has.
So it all evens out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, he makes other good points there about needing a centre mid as a priority. I would agree. Guendouzi would fill that gap. Possibly a left back, certain could potentially go. I agree, because there's also Masuaku who might end up leaving.
There's been a couple of rumours, hasn't there, about Masuaku just floating around about certain interest in him, or maybe we're going to let him go. So that'll determine a lot of the
my ideal situation would be Sirkin signs a new deal and we sell Masuaku, and Sirkin is the backup to Ronaldo. That would be certainly until the summer. I would be happy with that. Other points in amongst all of that from Joe Lewins there, talking about maybe Regis Lebris not fully trusting Adingra, Rig having to play on the right because we didn't really have anyone else. I said that before, Johnny, about right midfield. I think that's probably more of a priority than the left, if I'm honest. I'm quite happy with when they're all here. Talby first choice, Mundle second choice, Adingra third choice, and kind of, them battling it out on one side, and then on the other side of the pitch, bringing somebody in who's a proven scorer, who's a little bit younger than Traore, I think is what we probably need.
No, I think that's a fair point, to be honest. The main thing that I hadn't considered was the fact that Talby essentially is like a left winger now instead of a right winger. Obviously, when he came in the summer, he was starting on the right and Adingra on the left, so it seemed to make sense. But yeah, I think with him, I think
all right, Dan.
Ant's allergic to bollocks coming out of my mouth. But yeah, with Talby, and I do think that he looks better on the left as well. I think he looks loads better when he can cut inside on his weaker foot. So with him moving to the left, I do think a right winger is probably, to be honest, a right winger might actually be top of my list, with a centre mid of very, very close.
Right round, you didn't even mention it before.
Yeah, well, the wide areas, I think, mainly is the top of the list. But you have talked us into the right wing over the left, so I'll give you that one. Gav loves being right. But yeah, that will be top. And then central midfield, a very close second, just because the central midfielder that we need to bring in is as much to cover for eventualities as it is to improve the team right now.
I just think, a bit like Lafayette last year, there was a massive opportunity sitting in front of us there with Guendouzi that we've got to take. Perfect for what we need. Managers worked with them before. Shaka's worked with them before. Played in the Premier League. Good age. Available. like it's an open goal. We've got to sign Matteo Guendouzi.
Long-term Xhaka replacement as well, isn't he? You know, if he can knuckle down. I think Xhaka mentioned that at Arsenal when he was at Arsenal. Said he's
there's no better example of that than Xhaka though, because he was a right hothead. And look at him now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
exactly. But it's just that Guendouzi would be a brilliant signing, but he's not going to be a needle mover in terms of the quality of the midfield. Like he's going to help maintain that standard when other players are unavailable. Whereas I think a winger could come in and actually just improve the team day one as soon as they hit the ground.
That is a good point. The midfield options have been that good. They don't need to move the needle. We just need more of the same in terms of quality. Where I actually think if you look at the forward options, maybe not Xhaka level, but someone maybe not quite as good as Xhaka, but just that rung below level of player who you can sign them and they're gonna get you between 5 and 7 goals from January till the end of the season.
Like the type of player of an Illiman and Jai at Everton.
Yeah.
Where you go, all of a sudden he's in the team, but they can score at any moment because he's in the team. Whereas we don't. Traore's not giving teams that same fear, is he? As good as he's been. They're not sat there going, oh, bloody hell, we've got to keep Bertrand Traore quiet, otherwise we're getting tortured here.
Can I throw one out there? And I'm not saying it's going to happen because it is one of them ones. It's like, no, it probably won't happen. But Jared Bowen at West Ham. Bottom three. Don't look good. They look as if they may go down. Is it worth just, even just putting a silly bid in, you know what I mean? Like a cheeky bid, just to see
you've another good suggestion there, because I tell you what, there'll be teams looking at him in January.
Here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there will be teams looking at him in January, because for the reasons you've just outlined, but there will be teams probably around us in the table at the minute, you know? I mean, I've said it before, I think Bowen's got Newcastle written all over him. He just seems like the type of player Eddie Howe would love. But, he wouldn't be cheap, and it would take us out of our comfort zone, sign the player. But tell you what, I don't hate it again. I mean, on this pod, we've said we could possibly sign Jared Bowen and Ousmane Dembele. People are going to think these are a bunch of fucking idiots, what they're on about.
But again,
hey, let's get carried away, man, as they say.
We literally did sign Granit Xhaka, the current, at the time, 16th best player in the world per the Ballon d'Or. So what is the limit anymore? I don't know. I don't understand football anymore.
I just think, like I say, it might not be something where it happens in January, but if they go down, you're thinking, well, and as you mentioned before, who's around us that can afford him? Gathering Newcastle there. Newcastle will be able to afford him with PSR. Anyway.
Well, they shot the bolt on Elanga, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. Spent 55 million on Anthony Elanga, so that's out of the question.
Do you know what? And you've actually raised a really good point there. The fact that for the first time in what's going to be 3 years by the end of the season, there's going to be at least almost definitely, at least one relegated team who were in the Premier League for a good few years. So there could be a bit of a fire sale. You haven't had that for the past couple of seasons, because who the hell's wanted anyone from Southampton or Burnley or Leicester? Maybe James Maddison when Leicester originally went down. You can sometimes pluck those gems, but it's been a while since we've had any of those options. Whereas if West Ham go down, there's a few players, isn't there? There's Bowen, there's Paquetá, there's that Diouf, the left back they've got. There's players in there who teams would want to go and try and pinch.
Yeah, here's another suggestion for you then, because he was linked to us quite a bit in the summer and he's had a decent season. Abdul Fatawu from Leicester plays on the right. No, that's not not going to blow your socks off, but a player who should not be in the Championship.
Gabby, he is fantastic. Yeah, he is a fantastic player. He really is. Yeah. You seen his goal last week when he dinked on and halfway. I mean,
70 yards it was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Ipswich's goalkeeper was doing, but it's a magnificent goal. To have the cojones to do that is tremendous. But you're right, he is a good footballer.
Just to kind of step back onto that question where we were asked, if you had 30 million to spend, I would probably look at him.
Yeah.
Someone like that. Because we were having this conversation in our WhatsApp chat the other day, and people were saying we should sign him. And I was like, I think the club would be looking above him. They would probably be looking at a rung above. But I think someone like that would be a sensible signing, But really, to be honest, I want a player to come in who can just hit the ground running.
Yeah.
It might not be him, but,
Do you like how now we're mentioning transfers and no one's mentioning Adam Giallo anymore? He's gone now.
We'll probably be looking as well,
God,
right?
I'd still take him.
Of course I would.
We're going to be looking around the likes, a bit like we did in the summer. We're going to be looking at the French top flight, Italian top flight, Bundesliga, Portugal, at the players who are doing well and have got a bit of momentum at the minute. I don't know anything about these leagues to be able to sit here and say anything confidently about kind of who we should go out and sign and what have you. But that's what we'll be doing. We'll be looking at the players who would then see Sunderland as an ambitious next step, as opposed to being in the summer where they were probably looking and going, like it's a bit of a risk going there. They're expected to go down. And whereas now teams are going to see Sunderland 6th in the Premier League and go, I want a part of that. Granit Xhaka's the captain, signed all these lads, you know what I mean?
I was going to say, I think you said that in the WhatsApp chat the other day, didn't you, Gav? You're like, man, who's going to look at a project that made Granit Xhaka get this invested this quickly and go, nah, not for me, that actually doesn't seem up my street. Like, it's the ultimate recruitment advert.
Yeah. And it kind of like says that I know the Dembele one's probably one where you're thinking, it might be a little bit out there. But, you know, where we're looking at saying, we're looking to sign this, we're looking to sign that. Well, you're not going to sign him. He's not going to come to Sunderland. That's what always was the point. Well, anyway, he's not coming to Sunderland. What have you got? Well, might have European football. We've got Granit Xhaka here. Something brought Granit Xhaka here. So, you know, if someone's going to bring someone like him, then why not? You know what I mean? Why not? Are you like, yeah, sorry.
Getting carried away, lads. That's what we're doing. Well, that concludes today's edition of the Q&A, and I'm amazed we've managed to fit all that into an hour and a half. And that's a big podcast, and we've still managed to chunk through every single question. So thank you very much to everybody who sent one in. We'll probably do another one of these next week between Christmas and New Year. So make sure you look out for the post going out on Twitter. If you just want to get a question in nice and early, email us. We're at Haway The Podcast, safc@gmail.com or rokerreport@yahoo.co.uk. You can reach us on either of those addresses and we will use your question. Just need to say thank you very much, Johnny. Been a pleasure, mate.
Yep, thank you very much. Really enjoyed that one.
Yes, and same to you, Ant. Cheers, mate.
Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas to all of our listeners. Have a wonderful, wonderful time. How are the lads?
Yes, absolutely. Have a good Christmas if you don't hear from us between now and then.
Aye, Merry Christmas, chaps.
You filthy animal. Right, thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you later.
Find the biggest voices in sport on the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Like me, Hugh Ware, as seen on stage at this year's PDC World Darts Championships with the Tops and Tails Darts podcast, talking to the biggest names from the world of darts. Search Tops and Tails Darts podcast and listen wherever you get your podcast from.
Sports Social Podcast Network.